He forgot me.
Me too. Good afternoon, David, Brandon. How we
Hey,
doing? All right.
Brian. What's going on,
Doing
David?
great.
Yeah. Took
How
had a
about you guys?
couple of weeks off. Had a couple of conferences to attend, all in some warmer weather than where I am. Kind of in Orlando last week, near sort of near Brandon there. Well, I think a little north of you. It
You
was
can always
beautiful.
come down here.
Yeah,
Let me
absolutely. I
know
mean, it was
when.
beautiful. Um, but we're back. We are the reboot Wednesdays, 1:30 Eastern time. Um, uh, like I said, we missed a couple of weeks, but we're back and got an interesting topic today. But before we get into it, Brian brought you at BNLPC Solutions out of Long Island, New York.
Yeah, I'm Dave Groot with WinStar Technologies out of Culpeper, Virginia.
Brandon Bowers with Eisenrapper Managed Technology Services out of sunny South Florida.
Cool. All right. Today, there's going to be a lot of talking from the gentleman to my right or left, depending on how you want to define it. Going to be talking about OSINT, which is open source intelligence, using pretty much information that is readily available for free that's out there. Again, we like to show things that the average business user, end user is probably unaware of. The vast amount of information and abilities that people have to get into your, whether it be devices, personal information. It goes on and on and on. And it's constantly growing and evolving. It's relatively easy to use for some people. There's skins on overlays on websites that filter it out. You just put in what you're looking for, and it can just come back and give you these results. And we're going to talk about a couple of different products that you can use to do that. We had a prospect that we were working with and just put in their IP into one of these tools, and it came back and showed us all the vulnerabilities right there, right then and there, and with links to actually log into the equipment. So it's a little, and this is real, folks. This is not just to scare anybody. It's out there. You think you're setting up your smart home, and just be diligent about it, and we'll show you a couple of things to look for here. But I'm going to turn it over to David and let him continue from here.
And so just to
Yeah.
clarify for a second, so what is OSINT
So
for the layman?
OSINT it basically represents open source intelligence, which means it's intelligence that's generally available to anybody, right? No cost. We're not doing, I mean, we can use the dark web, but it doesn't need to. This is stuff that's generally available to everybody who's just using the internet. The things that we can discuss and show will demonstrate that here in a few minutes. But
and
this,
and I just wanted to add, the use of it is kind of across the board because it's not just somebody who has to be extremely technical or a penetration tester or just your cybersecurity expert that could theoretically use this or is theoretically using this information. So, um,
Agreed. And
yeah,
and there's there is, I'm sure there's malicious intent with a lot of use cases, but there are also some positive use cases, and that David could talk about as well. That you can go and whether it be you're researching a company, you're looking into certain, there's a decent amount of positive use cases. So listen to that side of it as well.
yeah, I see it as extremely useful for especially internal IT departments that may not have that security specialization, but just doing a double check of, hey, is there anything going on with our IP or with our domain? And if they just know a little bit of information on where they can do these searches, it'll give them really helpful feedback on maybe where they should focus some effort.
Yeah.
yeah, what I've seen come out of these things is that, a we use this process in the general flow of things, right? Just to make sure we're hardening the environments that we're protecting. So you know, all of the tools that we're going to talk about today are open and available to everybody. That means that they can be used for both good and for bad. It's really, that's not anything about the technology. It's the people whose hands it's in and what they're doing with it, right? So we're using the same tools that the bad guys are using to try and hack our environments in a non-malicious way, ethically, to see where we can gaps and fill it. But this demonstrates on more levels than any the need to make sure that we know about shadow IT, which is a conversation we've discussed briefly in Reboot in the past, and that's things that get installed into your environment without it being sanctioned or of the knowledge of the company in general. Somebody brings their own laptop in, jacks it in to do Windows updates, or they bring their own router in, or they're installing software on a computer that opens up a vulnerability. And if there isn't controls to stop those things, those default settings or improper configurations result in open facing stuff to the internet, which then becomes available as a part of the stuff that we're going to discuss today. So lots of reasons to be thinking about this and just understanding, why we want to do it. But it's amazing how easy it is to do this. And like you say, if you're super talented hacker, great. Then you can take this to levels that we're not going to get into today. But I'll show you some stuff that you can do that's not hard and isn't overly technical. Maybe understanding some of the results requires a little bit of experience, but it's pretty straightforward. So let me see.
Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah.
So for instance, if you were just to do things like a Google web search, right? And I believe if I share that screen, are we seeing that okay?
Hang on, let me edit. Okay.
Okay. So, we all are familiar with how to, search things right here. So like, you can search for llamas and there comes the llama, right? That's what we all do. We kind of, some of us know that you can search for images about llamas, right? So I come here, I'm able to look for pictures that relate to that keyword that I'm searching for. But where it really starts to get kind of crazy when you talk about Google and the things that it is capable of doing, remember, what does it do? It indexes everything. So if I was to use a couple of their different, they have different parameters or search terms, I guess is what they're called. You can do things like, I want to search a specific site, and then you would put in what that site is, right? And then you could say, but inside of the things that you indexed from that site, in the text, I want to find anything like a file name, password.txt, right? And so if I just perform that search, it's searching pastebin, and it's searching for any files named password.txt. Now, one of the things I need to make sure we demonstrate to you today is good and bad, right? Don't click these links necessarily, because they could be enticing you to click these links thinking you're going to get a list of passwords. And if you don't have the proper permissions and things on your computer, you could end up getting infected. So what I am not telling you to do is to go out and start clicking links without knowing what it is you're doing there. Okay. But it just demonstrates how quickly it searched through whatever it was able to index inside of that site and that contain those words, and then there they come. I was mentioning to you earlier, like we used to have Windows Small Business Server, right? So I can do a search like in the title, and that's the title bar of the page, right at the top where it says what the name of that website is, kind of thing.
And just to be clear here, David, what you're typing first is a Google.
Yeah, that's the Google parameter.
Right.
So in title is there, and then you follow that with a colon and then no spaces, right? You're just putting now in the what it is you're looking for. So in this case, I'm going to say welcome to Windows. Let's see, was it small business server?
Spelling.
You got a typo in Windows.
Yeah, that's not unheard of. All right, so we'll just say that, right? And we'll see what happens. So if I'm doing a complete search across the whole internet, for anything Google has indexed, where in the title of the website that comes back, it says, welcome to Windows Small Business Server.
And
And
I
that,
just want to add to this for a quick second. So for people to be aware here, anytime you have a server, a device, whatever, that has a website running on it. So in this case, what David's talking about is Windows Server 2003 automatically had built in a web server. And in many cases, IT, to not necessarily best practice, but because it was easy, may have exposed that to the internet. And because that website is exposed to the internet and Google is doing that indexing and it's just reaching out everywhere, anywhere and everywhere that it can, to figure out, hey, what can I index? And when it's finding sites, it may find one of those sites and then it gets indexed. And then now what David's doing is he's just doing a global search and trying to find those. Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Did we lose Dave?
I don't
Either
know.
he's deep in thought or we lost him. But we do see the results there, right?
Yeah.
Welcome to Windows Small Business Server 2003, restricting access. And we lost. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
that
we
was
lost
fun. Maybe that was a sign. Don't search what he's searching for.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Let's give him a
I
minute
mean,
to come back.
continue the conversation just for a second, though.
Yeah.
I mean, what's kind of scary is you just put that site up, whether it's that SBS server or people still running Microsoft Exchange, and like that, you can find those sites. And
Yeah.
because it's so easy, that's an obvious target that attackers can leverage to figure out, hey, who can I exploit? I mentioned Exchange specifically just because over the last couple years, there were major exploits open, right? With
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Exchange where they had
Yep.
to issue patches,
hmm
and attackers can just go into a Google search and find these, and all of a sudden they've got a perfect target of, okay, who can I hit and try and do something bad against, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty scary. I think David's coming back.
I'm back. How
If
frustrating
not, we
is
can.
that?
Oh, no worries.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
All right.
You
I'm
just
sorry.
froze for a minute there, and your screen
I know.
froze, and then
It's so frustrating. I was just in the middle of talking. Yeah. So you were saying web servers, and right, and then the point there was, that's just no different than like when you buy a TV or a refrigerator or a home router or any of those devices that are now smart that are on
the
the
IoT,
internet.
right?
They
I mean, that's what
all.
that
Especially the
is.
cameras.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about that next. So we'll do a share. Well, let's do a little search. Let's see what we can do.
Oh, okay.
This just takes us. We could put. You see that? You click on that, and there you are, right? And so now I'm going to remote web workplace, and I'm I don't know what has that done to it.
Breaking up a little bit, but so that was from the link
Just got infected.
in your
I'm just
Google
kidding.
search, right?
I think David's having some internet issues big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're back
So you
now?
can't hear me now.
Okay. Now we can.
How about if I turn my camera off? I'm going to leave my
Yeah,
camera
it's
off.
working right now.
Yep.
Maybe
I
that'll
hear
help.
you.
Okay.
Yep. At your
Okay.
screen.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe that'll work then. So here, like, let's see. I can do something like in title and webcam 7, which is just a common version of software, right? And in the URL, we want to look for a /admin.html web page. And so here I'm able to see that these are all,
Yep.
so there I am at their login for the
That's easy.
webcams. That there's
Security
nothing there,
best
right?
practice at its best.
Yeah.
That's what you're worried about when your employees can put stuff wherever they want to without any repercussion, right?
And that you did nothing there. You did right. I
I
mean,
didn't do anything. I mean,
right,
it's right there. I did nothing fancy.
right, right. It's that
Um,
easy.
that's all I did was search for that, right? Nothing.
Yeah,
All of them, boom, boom,
yeah,
boom, right down.
yeah.
Now, to just to be fair, and I am not like any kind of, this isn't my doing, right? There is a Google hacking database exploit DB. So if you search out GHDB, this will take you to a list of all the search indexes that you can use to find known
Exploits. Right, right,
well, not only just exploits, but known things, right? Like, refrigerators and yeah, like when they know that there's a potential of this, then they know what's in the URL, they know what's in the title or what have you. They build these out, right?
right, right.
And so there's just piles of them. And
And
you're
there's
just
really,
looking
I
for,
don't see how, um, not that they should, how Google can stop this. They're not doing anything
no,
wrong. It's these
absolutely
devices
not.
that are just
Hey,
broadcasting this.
what we just did is not illegal. Now,
Right,
if I go try and log into that camera system, different game. Now we've
right,
gone from passive to active,
right,
right?
right,
Active is I'm touching them.
right.
That's illegal. But I can see that, like, I can go to Google and search it. That
Yeah.
ain't my fault that you got it set up wrong,
Right, right,
right?
and
You can't hold me on that.
that's something to point out is that if through proper
Correct.
diligence and security and steps, this is preventable from being listed or named here.
Right. I mean, like, here's one that's kind of old, remote desktop web connection. I just wonder if that would still bring anything, right? If we were to
I'm
go to
sure it will.
Google,
I mean,
I don't
there's
know, but we'll find out. I
There are
mean, I'm
some.
thinking there's definitely are, right?
yeah,
Like, I
yeah,
mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of scary stuff, guys. Like, that's a school, right?
right,
Um, and okay, they're going to say, well, we got VPN, it's at a gateway. Okay, you know, that's great, provided that that's all done correctly,
right, right.
right?
All right, what
What's
else you got?
interesting for people to also know though is like you're doing Google searches right now and you need to kind of know what you're searching for. Yeah,
Mhm.
although there's that site that is kind of giving you some of the search strings, there's other sites dedicated out there to just posting this information up. Like, hey, I want to find open remote desktop servers, or I want to find open webcams, or NVRs, or IoT devices. I want to connect to somebody's AC
Yeah, I'll show you.
device, right?
We'll share another screen here real quick,
Yeah,
and we'll
I
see
remember
what
back
that
in the
looks
day,
like.
we were able to, when cable modems were up and coming, um, uh, able to just go on there and scan for PC Anywhere ports, and just people had their computers online waiting for a remote connection with no password or security on it. So
Right.
yeah,
Well, so this is a company or a site called Shodan, and they
Mhm.
basically scan all of the public IP addresses on the internet with scanning tools, and it comes back and tells them, is it a server, is it a firewall, what's the version of the server, what's running on the server, what is there any vulnerabilities, any things that you can look and see if this version of the operating system and so forth. And it just keeps a database, and so you can go in here and just search, very similar to doing with Google, but this deals with public internet IP addresses that are outside. They've already done the work for you. They know which ones are you know forwarding 3389 for that remote desktop in, or if you want to know, is their mail server in their office or is it in the cloud, you can see if that port is forwarded in, or what's going on. You'd be amazed at what you can find here. We can do a lot of the same things, finding cameras and web interfaces and stuff like that. So this is yet just another repository of that kind of data. Now, let's see, I should probably share the whole window so I don't have to keep stopping.
it's all right. I can keep you in, David.
No, I mean I have to stop the share and then bring in something new. If I just did the whole screen, it's gonna be. All right, so go ahead.
No,
If I come to another place, here's another tool, and this one's pretty scary. This is a site that is going to go out to all kinds of different repositories of information and then correlate it all together for particular search terms that you scan by, right? So when you go to create a scan, you would start by putting in new, and then you put in what keywords or what bits of information. Like you can see in this example, they scanned for Steve McAuliffe, and then they did an email address, and here they did some IP addresses. Here they did a website domain, and then I did one with just our website domain. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so like to see, I did stuff with the free version, so ours is not anywhere near as in depth as it is the examples, but I'm going to show you because you can see we have 2,700 elements that came out of me simply typing in that. So if you're not technical and you come here and you type in that and you hit search, like this is what you're going to get. Okay. Like if I come in here, first off, it's just going to show you, some of the categories of information that it's finding. It's going to show you if there's any, vulnerabilities, hosting providers. These are the bits of information that we have collected just by searching all these different places. And so if I look at all of the correlations, I can also search them out by severity, right? I can see where, what was found, right? So if I say all, there was apparently some vulnerabilities, and I don't want to get too in depth because we're recording this and we're online, but I've already got this worked out, so it's no big deal. But it's so like, look, what do? I'm a hacker. I want to recon you. I'm going to put in winstartech.com. That's going to come back and it's going to tell me some things. It's going to say, hey, you have these different hosts out on the internet, right? In our case,
Right.
we have autodiscover.winstar, we have enterprise enrollment, we have enterprise registration, we have link discover, we have SIP, we have a relationship to Axiom themes, we have docs.winstar. So these are targets, right? These are things that I know there a server out there. There's one out there called www. So now I can start to dig into that kind of stuff. From there, I can potentially come up with locations if there's different offices or if there's different. Here, I'm seeing some of the things that apparently were pulled off of the website. I'm assuming these are probably things that were used in developing that site. Okay.
Right.
So to just give you a crazy like concept, that's what we found when it comes to all the different bits and pieces of data that all tie together in some way to winstartech.com. So it's finding all of the external IP addresses that deal with those different hosts. It's finding our registrar. It's finding our, you'll see there's our internet provider, and then our public IPs at the office, all the certificates, and then I can go and I can find people, and I can find email addresses, and then I can go and I can look and see if those have been breached on pwn.com, right? All inside this software.
Yeah.
Right. Like I'm not
what's kind of
stepping out
cool
of
about
this.
this too is it's a little bit scary just
You call
because
it cool.
of
I call it scary.
how helpful, for an attacker this is. When you look in there, right away, hey, the website is running on MySQL. Well, now I can look and say,
Correct.
well, has there been any recent exploits with MySQL that
That's
I
right.
can maybe, try and leverage to attack on this site? So,
I mean,
yeah.
it's right there. Like here's WP Bakery, right? So I know, like I can take that and I can, figure out what's going on with that. If I click on details, it's going to tell me, here's the relationships, how many instances it has, where it was discovered from. If there is any known vulnerabilities, they're going to be right here telling me about it, right? If I come in
What
here, go ahead.
what I want to kind of share about this is not necessarily you know, as a business owner or operator, do you need to be going to these sites? But, for you to be aware, at least, that this information is out there, it's
Correct.
easily accessible. it- you know, People are using it for bad means, but it doesn't have to all be bad. Like,
Well,
you should be
we use
talking
it for
to your
good means
IT
every
provider,
day.
right,
Yeah.
to look at this and kind of do due diligence on ourselves to validate what it is that we're doing and are we missing anything.
Right.
Right. Right. So like here's the map, right? Where you can, again, it just depending on how you're looking to visualize that information, and then you can drill into it and you can, it's crazy. Again,
Yeah.
what did I do? I typed in winstartech.com, right?
Yeah. Any last minute other tools you want to?
Well, I mean, Recon NG is what we use in the Kali
Mhm.
Linux world, and that's a kind of a less graphical thing to do. Yeah, it's command line driven. There was one other thing I wanted to show you. I'm sorry, I have a bunch of notes here from my
It's okay.
when I teach this. So, no, nothing that I think we can fit into this particular conversation without further explanation. I mean, I honestly think that really gives people enough to think about, right?
It does. Agreed.
I really just want you to know how easy it is to find this. And again, we've done no work. Like this is not, I haven't even started to dig
And you're
into
not
this.
paying for anything, correct?
No,
Right.
everything you're seeing here. Now, can you? Yes, like this particular site, if you want all levels, like I told you, it only gives me
Yeah.
12 things and stuff
Yeah.
like that. It's $7,500 a year. So, okay, if for a business like ours, that's a tool that you might potentially want to pay for, right? Because I use that in my businesses to make sure we're not able to be hacked or to know where those vulnerabilities are. Because look, part of the compliance world is vendor management. Well, look, what am I going to do? I'm going to run this on all the vendors because I want to know their stuff is secure,
Right.
right?
Right. This way you can vet
It's
it.
not pen testing
yeah.
them, but it's giving me a great understanding of how well their maturity is and their coverage and exposure and knowledge of that IT infrastructure.
Right. Right.
Yeah, so
Very good.
I know we're almost on time.
okay, so I
I
didn't
think
get
as a
carried away.
takeaway is, you know, if you have a business, you need to get your IT guys to at least look at this, and make sure that there's nothing widely exposed there.
That's a starting
I
point.
would
Yeah.
second that. I mean, look, not trying to pitch or sell. It's not the purpose of this particular forum, but all of us are more than happy to help any company with providing them a pen test and showing them very quickly where there are open gaps and things that can be plugged and taken care of. And I can promise you, I don't care how long you've been doing it or how well you're doing it, there's something. And just getting another set of eyes on it can oftentimes be the one thing you need to fill that hole that could have taken it all down. And that's it. Just you got to keep doing it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
Yep. Well, thank you, David. That was very informative. Appreciate it.
There's a whole lot more, guys. We'll keep going. That's step one. We got 7 steps in the kill chain, so we'll go with
Very
that
good.
next. All right.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks,
Topic
guys.
TBD.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll have
See ya.
to decide what that topic is. Right?
Yep.